How's it going, everybody? C-RadTV back here in our video, and of course, it's time for another Detroit Lions 2024 NFL Draft Preview. So in the last draft preview, we took a look at the top wide receiver prospects in rounds 2 and 3 of the 2024 NFL Draft. And in this one, we're going to address another position that is a need for the Lions, but not as big of a need until rounds 2 and 3 of the draft that can be addressed, and that is the offensive line, specifically the guard position more so. It was a big need at first, but after the Lions signed Kevin Sider from the Ravens, it's not that big of a need anymore. But there are some interesting names to go by because Sider only signed a one-year deal with the Lions. So, and Glasgow's only back on a short-term deal. So, plus, depth's pretty crucial too. So we're going to take a look at some O-lineman prospects because usually most O-lineman prospects can play anywhere on the O-line if they have enough experience there and enough size there too. So we're going to take a look at some of the top offensive linemen from tackles to guards and centers and see who the Lions should potentially take a look at in the rounds 2 and 3 of the 2024 NFL Draft. But anyway, let's take a look at it. Let's go. Starting off with offensive tackles. The first one we're going to go over here. Hailing out of Arizona, standing 6'5", weighing 306 pounds. We got Jordan Morgan. So for Jordan's strength, his frame is suitable for either tackle or guard positions, so some flexibility there. Smooth as pass sets, easy lateral agility, maintains wide base through contact, won't lose it when he mirrors pass rushers. Held his own in a matchup with UCLA's loaded group of pass rushers if you want to watch some tape there. Hands are patient, steady both prior to and after contact. Fluent with turning and cutting off the linebackers in space. Rarely on his heels, shows the combination with his anchor and balance to hold up against power. 34-inch arms should pass the threshold for most teams to play outside. He recovered well after tearing from a torn ACL, and he looked even better in 2023. In terms of his weaknesses, other than the injury, but he recovered from it. But that's more of a nitpick there. But other than that, though, he allows his hands to run a little low at times, will slip off blocks because of it. He's slow to place his hands when he starts to lose control. Somewhat unassuming athlete, isn't particularly explosive when he gets in the open field. Has trouble recovering against top-end athletes when they get a step ahead against him. Not a powerful long blocker, won't clear paths easily. In terms of NFL comparison, he's been compared to Samuel Cosmi of the Washington Commanders. Overall, one of the things to like out of his game, pretty big frame. Has some versatility there that could move him to guard. Maybe someone to keep an eye on here for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Washington, standing 6'3", weighing 319 pounds. We got Troy Fautanu. So for Troy, he's your prototype pulling and trapping offensive tackle because of his compact frame, which makes him look like a guard. Can pull like one, too. Angles are precise, rarely misses a target. Terms his strength, abnormally long arms, which offsets his shorter frame as a tackle. Incredibly nimble mover. Able to flip his hips, can rotate smoothly when he combo blocks or trade off blocks. Blend of body control, balance, and agility will allow him to compete with anyone athletically. Plays with a naturally wide base despite his frame. Keeps his hands and feet in two when mirroring and pass protection. Easily handles stunts both with his hand usage and awareness. Easy change of direction skills makes it hard to evade at the second level. Sturdy and expected for his size when he drops his weight and anchors down. Hands are rarely misplaced regardless of where he is in a rep. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he's built like a guard, will have some teams nervous about overlooking the height aspect. It doesn't take up much space due to compact body type. He drops his head when he tries to maintain his control against outside rushers. Low-cut build makes his pass sets shorter and hurts his recovery ability. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Luke Goddick of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Overall, a lot of things to like out of his game. Does a lot of things right, especially with the hand placement there with technique. The frame may prevent him from being a tackle, but, I wouldn't rule out possibly a change to guard in the future. I think this is someone I could keep an eye on for a position. I think someone to keep an eye on for the position change. All right, so the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Michigan, standing 6'4", weighing 315 pounds. We got Darius Henderson. So for Darius' strengths, positional flexibility between tackle and guard spots makes him more valuable for more teams on the foreend, so positional flexibility there too. Great arm length, uses it well. Able to control guys, can keep them away from the ball carrier, uses his length effectively. Good athlete, though perhaps not a +1, but he's explosive off the line. Great first step combined with a shocking violent hands on initial contact. automatically gives the QB some extra time as he almost always wins the snap battle. Maneuvers upfield well, has developed quality anchor. In terms of weaknesses though, general lateral agility could be better. Tendency to get faked out by the eyes of a player and not recover. Wild hands, just a general want to see him get more refined at the next level. Placement can sometimes be too far on the outside shoulder, allows him to get beat inside. Lost some level of power in the transition from guard to tackle that you would hope he was able to get back. Much better run blocker than pass blocker. Needs to work on technique and getting shocked back in that regard. In terms of NFL comparisons, to be compared to former Detroit Lion Tyrell Crosby. So overall, a lot of things to like out with Darius' game. It seems like he always played better as a guard than a tackle. So yeah, definitely I think someone to keep an eye on for sure in case of a position change. And the final tackle we're going to go over in this video before we move on to guards, we have hailing out of Maryland, standing 6'4", weighing 325 pounds. We got Delmar Glaze. So for Delmar's strengths, outstanding length for a short tackle. Will be able to stay outside as a pro as a result. Light on his feet, stayed in control on downfield blocks against Ohio State linebackers for any film study there. Low cut build, naturally low center gravity, helps him out if he has to play guard. Patient with his hand usage, won't overcommit or compromise his balance and play protection. Plays with coordinated hands and feet. Rarely gets out of sync or puts himself in bad positions. His technique took major strides from 2022 to 2023. And he looked great physically despite playing at nearly 330 pounds this season. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his small stride lengths, natural guard body, will be off-putting to teams that are strict about height and body type for offensive tackles. Jody isn't good enough to contain the edge against high-end athletes. Brings average power in the run game. Will have to rely more on his angles and effort than his tools to keep lanes open. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Ikem Ekwonu of the Carolina Panthers. Overall, though, a lot of things to like out of his game for sure. A lot of positives to take out of it. Could offer some positional versatility for sure. Someone to keep an eye on 100%. Now moving on to guards. The first one we're going to go over here. Hailing out of Connecticut, standing 6'2", weighing 312 pounds, we got Christian Haynes. So for Christian, he's a prototype pulling and trapping guard because while he's not the biggest or most physical puller, he's extremely slick and precise with his steps, has a great feel for sealing off angles, can maintain run lanes. In terms of strengths, physically opposing blocker, brings plenty of forces, punch in the run game. Plays with balance, body control through contact, rarely seats a step as a pass blocker and anchors with power. Overpowers linebackers, can drive through them without much resistance. Physicality, vision ability will be a coach's delight. Burst and agility will get him to the target on reach and combo blocks. Takes good angles to the target without running himself out of range. Pro-ready awareness, recognition skills. Flips his hips, redirects smoothly in transition. Energetic, high-effort player, never takes his foot off the gas. Smart with his hand usage, can play either center or guard. In terms of his weaknesses, though, average wingspan, overall width, it will be a concern for teams that prefer beefier interior linemen. He'll lose his grip and have defenders slip away when he faces significant length difference. Maxed out frame will not be able to add too much more bulk or mass going forward. His body type is knocked out by some scouts. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Dylan Parham of the Las Vegas Raiders. Overall, a lot of things to like out of his game. Very violent. Fits a lot in the mold of the Dan Campbell Lions culture. Definitely I think someone to keep an eye on here for sure that fits the culture. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Texas A&M, standing 6'3", weighing 321 pounds. We got Layden Robinson. So for Layden's strengths, great upper body strength, holds defensive linemen in place, shocks with his punch, stout frame, well below upper and lower body, can absorb power moves well, isn't affected by a bull rush, he's able to hold an anchor well, doesn't get moved from the spot, able to keep linemen ahead of the line of scrimmage. Hands are placed well, usually hits the chest, allows him to generate good leverage early on in the play, creating clean running lanes. In terms of weaknesses, though, sluggish feet usually results in occasional miscues when he picks up delayed rushers. Doesn't really have any positional versatility because of his short arms and a lack of center experience. Falters against high athleticism. Can lose balance attempting to take on guys who are willing to just juke around him. Lateral movement's fine, but not high end. Could catch him having some difficulties in zone schemes. His footwork sometimes results in being caught in his own web. Can keep him in a phone booth when he needs to move with range. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Nate Davis of the Chicago Bears. Overall, a lot of things to like out of his game, especially in a run game, could open up some lanes. Definitely could be somebody for running downs to help open some things up for Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery to feast and run that ball down the throat. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Illinois, standing 6'4", weighing 318 pounds, we got Isaiah Adams. So for Isaiah, he's your prototype pass blocking guard. He's a guard in his first year with Illinois. He had to move the right tackle early in 2023 and perform admirably despite not having the typical agility and quickness to play outside. In terms of strength, he has outstanding length for a guard, over 34-inch arms. Experience playing right tackle in 2023, which will be viewed highly by a lot of NFL scouts. Displayed easy knee bend against Kansas for any tape there if you want to watch. Never seemed to be the higher man. Transitions easily and on time when he passes off stunts. And tangibles are going to translate easily in next level. Slick lateral mover, was able to keep pace against Kansas's defensive ends when playing tackle. Gets great extension with his hands. Rarely misplaces them when entering. Looked for work and stayed busy through the whistle against Penn State for more film study there. In terms of his weaknesses, short legs, squatty build. It will be limiting if a team tries to play him outside. He's late to replace his hands if he misses coming out of the gates. Gets up his angles too quickly in the run game. Can't quite reach his hips around good athletes. Leads with his hands. Lets his feet follow them, which pulls him out of position. He whiffed over and over in his matchup against Penn State's top pass rusher, Chop Robinson. Again, some more tape footage there to watch. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Zion Johnson of the Los Angeles Chargers. Overall, a lot of things to like out of his game for sure. Played probably better as a guard and a tackle, but still held his own. Definitely, I think, someone to keep an eye on for sure. So the next player we're going to go over here, hailing out of Wisconsin, standing 6'4", weighing 310 pounds. We got Tanner Bertolini. So for Tanner, he's your prototype initial quickness guard because he's a starter at guard, center, and even tight end. He flashes quickness most defenders can't match. Rarely the second one making contact. Agility allows him to hit, reach blocks with ease after his feet get going. In terms of strength, his versatility will be a huge sticking point for teams. He has worked as a guard, a center, and even a tight end during his time at Wisconsin. Incredibly active, engaged in pass protection, showcased a freakish ability to recover and adjust his angles against Iowa's Logan Lee for any tape footage to look at. Displays excellent lower body flexibility, rarely lets defenders under his pads, flows easily through changes of direction, has rarely missed linebackers on combo blocks, has an uncanny feel for dipping and turning to seal angles as a run blocker. Quickness as a puller, looked outstanding against Nebraska for more footage and tape to watch on him. In terms of his weaknesses, though, subpar length for a guard at 31.5-inch arms, gives up too much ground on contact against power rushers, won't be able to sustain the pocket against big defensive tackles. Lack of length and strength will lead to slipping off blocks against longer D linemen. Lateral quickness doesn't match what he could do when he works in a straight line. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Kendrick Green of the Houston Texans. Overall, a lot of things to like out of his game. Has some versatility due, especially in passing plays like a tight end. Maybe if Ben Johnson wants to do some trickery with the O-lineman and try and get a fat guy touchdown, maybe someone to keep an eye on for some versatility and maybe run some trick plays. We'll have to see. And the last guard we're going to go over in this video before we move on to centers, we have hailing out of TCU, standing 6'4", weighing 320 pounds. We got Brandon Coleman. So for Brandon's strengths, outstanding length, nearly 35-inch arms will make teams comfortable protecting him at either guard or tackle for some positional versatility. Violent finisher in both the run game and the pass game. Experience playing outside will translate when he steps up to NFL athletes. Makes the most of his length, gets plenty of extension with his punch. Patient with his hands, won't rush his approach. Strong and balanced lower body, keeps his anchor steady against power rushers. Snaps quickly for block to block when he deals with stunts. Good awareness and processes quickness. create some surprising power when he gets his feet rolling. In terms of weaknesses, though, he looks stiffer and less controlled in space on a senior tape. Had some stiffness in his lower body, makes it harder for him to stay low through contact. He let his feet die out and slips off blocks through late adjustments in his lower half. He's unable to recover once a defender gets on his hips. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Warren McClendon of the Los Angeles Rams. Overall, a lot of things to like out of him. Very violent player, fits a lot of the things that Dan Campbell wants in his own lineman. Definitely, I think, someone to keep an eye on for sure. And now, moving on to centers. The first one we're going to go over here, hailing out of Oregon, standing 6'3", weighing 320 pounds. We got Jackson Powers Johnson. So for Jackson, he's your prototype run-blocking center, so very good in the run game because of his burly upper half and mean temperament. Makes him a bulldozer in that run game. In terms of strength, his versatility to play guard or center will propel him up to a lot of draft boards. Long-armed enough to hold his own in length was a consistent advantage in matchups against Washington in 2023 for some tape footage there. Outstanding athletic background, experience as a wrestler, been a talking point for scouts in pre-draft evaluations. Displays patience with his punch, won't rush his way into it. Flexibility in his knee bend allows him to stay underneath most defenders. He has the anchoring ability to hold his ground against nose tackles. In terms of his weaknesses, his build is sloppy, will worry some teams that he's carrying too much weight. He can lose his bearings and ends up roaming in space without intent. His instincts need time to be developed as a center. He plays with wide hands on a regular basis, exposes the chest, gives the advantage to power rushers, doesn't have the required hand speed to recover from misplacements or sloppy technique. Getting by primarily on physical gifts and needs some technical refinement. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Elkin Jenkins of the Green Bay Packers. Overall, a lot of things to like out of his game. Very violent player. Does a lot of things right. Definitely someone I think to keep an eye on for sure. And the final center, the final offensive lineman, the final player we're going to talk about in this video, hailing out of Georgia, standing 6'4", weighing 315 pounds. We got Cedric Van Pran. So for Cedric, he's your prototype initial quickness center because of his twitch and his angles. They're the name of his game, and he can beat almost any defensive tackle off the ball. In terms of strength, outstanding leg drive, effort as a run blocker. Play strength took a huge step forward in 2023. Hand-eye coordination allows him to recalculate, can replace his hands better than most. His intangibles are going to excite teams. Easy knee bender, drops his weight, wins the leverage battle without much trouble. Angry run blocker, can sling linebackers out of the run lane. Gorilla glue grip strength leads to easily restraining weak defenders. His frame, his play strength, and his toughness could offset his length. Gives him a chance to play guard. Quick to realize his mistakes, can get back into position. Balances top of the line for a center prospect in this draft class. Terms his weaknesses, has near 31-inch arms, which is a major red flag for scouts and coaches that covet length. Constantly fights an uphill battle to get into the chest of oncoming defenders. He's unable to eat up space and win as a mauler. Shock absorbers, they aren't good enough to take on high level power without bending the pocket. He gets too loose with angles, allows defenders to slide away from him. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to now retired center Ryan Kaleo. So overall, a lot of things to like out of his game. Does a lot of things right. Has some pretty good grip. Plays angry. A lot of things you want to see in a Dan Campbell type player. Definitely, I think, someone to keep an eye on for sure. And yeah, now we'll wrap it up for this Detroit Lions 2024 NFL Draft Preview. So yeah, definitely quite a few interesting prospects to keep an eye on for sure. Especially when it comes to guards or anybody that can play guard or has that versatility. Definitely some very interesting prospects. I see a lot of Dan Campbell type players in this draft class for offensive linemen. But of course, like Brad Holmes said before, not everybody can play for the Detroit Lions. But yeah, overall, some pretty interesting prospects too. Like, I know I'm a broken record saying this, but I've said it the last couple of years, and it's pretty much tradition at this point. But listen, I know offensive lineman, it isn't the sexiest position in the world, but it is the most essential position. It's an essential pick. They're the most essential position out there in football. They can give your QB time, that extra second or two they need to get a good pass out. Can open up that one lane that your running back needs to go at least 30 yards out. Like, the game is won and lost in the trenches, and in the end, it comes down to O-linemen and how well they protect their QB. But yeah, anyway, that'll wrap it up for this video. So in the next draft preview, we're going to head to the other side and go focus on the defense. But yeah, anyway, that'll wrap it up here. That's all I got to say. Hope everyone has a great day, and I'll see you all whatever I make next. I'm out.